All right, so today is Saturday morning, December 21st, and here's my progress from this past week. I got kind of several projects started and not quite finished for various reasons. The first one I started with was the gas tank to complete the left wing, and like I was expecting, the second tank goes together way easier than the first tank. Just, prep is everything. Make sure to Scotch Brite all the connections and everything before you spread the Pro Seal. I was putting a thin bead of Pro Seal and then kind of smoothing it over with my finger, and it takes a little time to get a nice even spread. I saw on the Sling forum or the Facebook group that somebody was using something similar to a like what you would use with tile, kind of like I don't really know what it's called. It's got kind of ridges that scrape, and so it scrapes off a nice even height of Pro Seal, and I think that would probably be a better way to go. I didn't have any problems this time around just using my finger and smoothing it, but that method that he used looks a little nicer. I ran out of the sealed 4mm rivets, and so I'm waiting on those to come in so I can finish this project. Didn't really bother me because the Pro Seal stinks, so taking a couple of days off from it's not a problem for me. So one thing that I did differently on this tank than the first tank, the right tank, is I actually just cleat coat everything together, not in the jig that they provide. And I cleat coat it together so that first the bottom side of the tank, the way it's oriented right now, the bottom has this cutout on it, is flatter than the top. The top has a more rounded surface to it. So I cleat coat it so that the flat part sits flat on the table, just kind of how it's sitting right now. Well, I cleat coat that part first, so I guess technically I started with it this way, cleat coat this whole side, then I rested it flat on the table here, then cleat coat this side, and then I took it over to the wing to test fit it on there to make sure it's not twisted or anything. I'm pretty sure that twist is something that doesn't happen as much on the TSi tank. I think it was from the Sling 2, where the TSi tank has this front kind of flat, I guess, rib on it. And I'm pretty sure it's not possible to make this one twisted because of that. As long as this row lines up on both sides, I'm pretty sure that it can't be twisted. But I checked it anyway, of course, and everything was good. So then I went through and I riveted first that rib that I was talking about, but I started on the flat side, and I got all the rivets on the flat side done, and then I rested it nice and flat on the table like this and finished it, and it still fits onto the wing perfectly. Everything came together nice and easy, and it was much easier than trying to deal with it in the jig like I did with the last one. I might set it in the jig to get the back plate on it, just because then it'll sit like this nice and flat. But it doesn't really tell you in the instructions when to use the jig or how. And so this was kind of my trial and error and what I found to be easiest for me. Another project that I got started because I was waiting for those rivets to come in was I put the rear top skins on. I decided that the last wire I need to run would be for the magnetometer back there, and I can get to it still just as is and install it and have everything be nice and clean. So I said, okay, time to put the top skins on. Things fit up okay. There might be a problem with my skins because, as you can see, all these holes line up good where the top skins meet the bottom, until at the mating surface here, where the two bottom skins kind of join, the holes don't line up anymore. They do between the bottom skin and the rib underneath, and so the bottom skin and the rib underneath line up perfectly the whole way along, but then the top skin holes get a weird spacing starting right at that skin mating. So you see the holes are perfect the whole way along, and then boom. So I've got a question in with the factory, but I think they're on vacation for Christmas right now. So it might be a while before I hear back. And also, it's not possible to align. I got one cleco to align here on this rib. And that's even if I take everything else off and just the hole patterns just don't match at all. So I'm waiting to hear back from them on that. But everything else kind of went together fine. A little frustrating to run into these little issues when I've had those skins sitting up there for weeks, and I was saying how it's fine to leave them off because then you can access everything, which is true. But then if there's a problem with them like this, you don't know about it until it's too late. So getting the replacement skins or whatever I need to do here could have been well underway now rather than starting the process now. So then, while I was waiting for that to kind of get solved, I started on the Firewall Forward kit because, well, obviously this is exciting. And so yeah, this was going together fine. The nose wheel is, with the paint that they put on it, it doesn't fit through the bushings. And so I kind of checked online and looked around to see what other people are doing. And I couldn't find any definitive answers, but I have seen several of them with kind of a silver section here. So that allows for when I guess the suspension on it to travel up and down through that bushing without getting caught up in the paint, because the paint does add some thickness to that rod. And so it's still a little bit hard to turn by hand, but I think that's fine. I think it's meant to be a tight fit in there for obvious reasons. So with your feet, you can easily push it. I can push it by hand with these with a little bit of force, and that's kind of weird leverage to be pushing this way, and I can still get it to move. So I think straight force with your feet, I think it'll move no problem. But that's something I'm going to keep in mind. So another thing is I'm not actually entirely sure if I'm going to be able to leave all this Firewall Forward stuff on here, because to match the kind of cowling or whatever they call it that goes on here, I might have to drill from underneath, or at least mark from underneath, and this stuff might be in the way. I'm not really sure. So I just kind of did it for fun, basically. And if I have to take it off, I'm not too deep into it, but I'm going to ask the factory what they recommend doing, because I'm going to run out of things to do here. If I can't keep going with the motor and the wiring of the motor, then I'm not really sure what else I'll have to do here other than maybe the internal skins here. So maybe another week's worth of work until I can get these rear skins on so that I can put the canopy on, then move forward with the engine and everything. So I'm not sure exactly what happens there, but we'll see. But anyway, I think that's it for this week. Next week's video, hopefully I have some updates to some of the issues I've been having here. But with Christmas happening next week and everything, I'm not sure that I will get responses from the factory next week. If I do, great, I'll be in here at least a couple of the days. Obviously, probably not on Christmas, unless I get really lucky and I can sneak in here. Probably not, though. So yeah, that's it for this video. Hopefully, like I said, I got some answers for next week's video, if I make one. If not, the following week I'll be back at it full force. So Merry Christmas, everyone.